Hi everyone, welcome back to another edit with me. Today is an exciting day because this episode will be the first time I share my editing process with my custom presets that will go on sale very soon. Today is a sneak peek and just a taste of what's to come, so let's hop in. I've selected 6 images here from the past year and a half that are all completely different lighting situations and completely different styles of portraits. So I want to show you what all these presets can do. So let's hop over to the Develop tab. These presets are codenamed the Kinfolk presets because if you are aware of the Kaylee Trippett Photography brand, you know that I have a special name for my past clients, champions, and supporters of Kaylee Trippett Photography, and I call those very special people KTP Kindreds, and they are just like kinfolk to me. They are very much like me, and they are very special to me. And so I just had to name my very first preset set after those people who have inspired me and motivated me and championed me all this way. So let's go ahead and do this. So first is the Kinfolk Basic. Next is the Kinfolk Black and White, Kinfolk Film, and Kinfolk Luminous Portrait. Looking at these presets already, I can tell that so far on this particular image, it's an overcast day and it's a little bit brighter than what I would normally shoot for in camera. It looks pretty good right now. It's really good, but I know that there are just a lot of hot spots up here and a lot of whites going on, and I need to lighten up all of this underneath here and play with a little bit to make it stand out amongst this white and kind of grayish overcast blob that's up here. So I'm going to go with the Kinfolk Preset Basic. And I think that looks pretty good to me. I may mess with my highlights just a little more, but I'm going to come down here to the tone curve and bring that down just a little bit. Maybe not that much, just a little bit up. And that looks pretty good to me, and I'm pretty much satisfied with that. This preset takes care of your highlights for you and ups your shadows a little bit, but really tries hard to bring down your highlights and your whites some. Your white balance and your tint is already taken care of, and I'm happy with that. Let's move on. This was a very interesting picture that was taken. I took this picture on the inside of an old building with minimal light, and there are a lot of shadows happening here, and then a lot of, in contrast, a lot of whites and bright spots going on over here. But this looks all right to me, like in camera, the exposure wise. There are no blown out spots and there are no extremely dark spots and no deep shadows going on for the most part. So I'm going to go through my presets and pick one. Got black and white, basic, film, and luminous portrait. I think I'm going to go with the film image here. I like the way this looks already, except I'm not a big fan of how kind of magenta-y and red-y it is. So I'm going to bring down my tint just a tad bit. Yeah, that looks better. And then my HSL and color panel, I'm going to hit those oranges and take that down just a smidge. And the same thing with the reds. Let's see how far I can go before it looks funky. Yeah, that looks all right to me. And maybe bring down my yellows just a little. Oh, that looks much better. Cool. That looks good to me. I'm just going to go ahead and auto correct that part there, make it straighten it out a little bit, and that looks good. So I noticed there are no hot spots, nothing blown out, and my highlights are retained. Let's look at the before and after. Before and after. Looks good to me. Let's go back really quick. I forgot to do a before and after with this image. So here's the, with the Kinfolk Basic preset, here's before and after. Looks good. Cool. Okay, next, I'm really pumped about this preset. This is a senior portrait session that I did here, and the lighting situation, again, was just on a really overcast day, and it made for really good exposure in camera. And you can see that there's some really nice just highlight sections here. Everything is real soft. There aren't any super harsh shadows except maybe back here behind her neck, and there's no super hot spots of bright light except maybe down here by her leg. But for the most part, everything looks pretty even, and my bokeh is beautiful in the background, and that green, I can just tell it's going to be beautiful already. So let's go ahead and apply some of these presets and see what they look like. Kinfolk Black and White. Ooh, pretty. Kinfolk Basic, nice. Kinfolk Film, ooh, very nice. And Kinfolk Luminous Portrait, I like that. I think I'm stuck between Film and Luminous Portrait. I think I'm going to go with Luminous Portrait just because one of the two big differences that I see that I like about this portrait, like the two differences I see between these presets is how the luminous portrait brings out that vignette and distortion on the ends of the photo. So if you go back to Film, you can see it gets a little dark around the edges. And then when you take it away, it really helps even out the edge of the photo and makes it look like a consistent, full portrait that is really, really beautiful. So I like the way this looks here. I don't think I'm going to make too many big changes. I might bring down the warmth just a smidge. Yep, that looks good. You know, I think that looks all right to me, maybe. If you are feeling like you need a little bit more contrast on this image, especially down here in her shirt, perhaps you can take your blacks and bring those down just a hint. And then same thing with your darks. Bring down your dark just a little. But that's only if you feel like you need a little bit of contrast. I don't like that much contrast in my images. I like just enough to bring in a good depth. So I'm going to actually undo the tones and undo that black and leave it as is. Oh, I love that. That's so pretty. I like it. And before and after. Yay, so pretty. And then next is another portrait that is very different again from this. This was in an open space here with not a lot of contrast, but this was taken more so in the shade, and there isn't a lot of contrast either, but instead of everything being really light and even, everything is just kind of matte and flat and not very, doesn't have a lot of depth. So let's go ahead and add some of that depth. Let's see these presets and what looks good. Black and white, ooh, pretty. Basic, yeah. Film, looking good, and luminous portrait. So the big differences that I see between the film and the luminous portrait is that my shadows are lifted in the luminous portrait and my highlights are retained, and then that luminous quality is added on those high spots on her face. But in the film image, there are a lot of shadows back there that are still there, and it makes the image look a little bit too dark and punchy for me. So I'm going to go again with the luminous portrait. And I'm going to do a little bit of color correction here because although this is just breathtaking to me and gorgeous to me, there's still just a little bit too much color for my taste. I described my personal style as kind of like light and airy filmic with some punch. So you won't find any super desaturated greens here. You won't find any washed out images here, highly muted colors, but you also won't find deeply saturated images like this. I love this. I think this is beautiful, but I'm going to take down a couple of these colors that I see that are just kind of taking away just the overall, I guess, quality of her face and her color and the tones here. So I'm going to go to my saturation panel here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do -10 on everything. And then I'm going to go visit my greens, and I'm going to actually bump up my luminance on my greens and then take down the saturation some more. So let's bump up that luminance a little bit more. And I'm actually going to pull down those blues a little bit. Yeah, that looks a lot better. All right, cool. I'm going to go to my yellow panel, and I'm going to take down my yellows a little bit. Oh yeah, see, that's starting to really kind of even things out. Yellow just a little bit more, looking good. And then it looks a little bit purpley to me, a little bit red. So I'm going to take down that by like 2 or 3 clicks. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, and before and after. I love it, so pretty. All right, let's head over next to in this engagement session. Um, I know it sounds funny, but this session as well was taken on a more overcast day. And you can see the clouds in the background and just kind of how funky things are. And it was a beautiful location, but I want to edit with the end result in mind of a warmer and brighter image. This just looks cold to me, and ignoring the initial exposure situation here, I'm going to focus on making it a little bit brighter and more luminous, as well as warming it up a little. So let's take a peek. We got black and white, the Kinfolk Basic, Kinfolk Film, and then Kinfolk Luminous Portrait. So I really love the Kinfolk Luminous Portrait, so I'm going to keep it right there. And then I am going to go ahead and warm this up, because this just looks, let's see some magenta here. And I don't think that solution right now is going to be to take down the magentas. I think I need to counterbalance it with a little bit of warmth. So let's bring that warmth up to about, I'm going to do it manually, 5,500. Cool. And go ahead and bring down my magenta a little. Yeah, let's just leave it at like 0. That'll look good to me. Okay, cool. I'm going to bump up the exposure by 1. That click is just fine. Now I'm going to do a couple of funny things here. What I see is that there is an abundance of oranges here, which I know I just made with my my temperature and tint. But I'm going to do a couple of adjustments, specific adjustments to her coloring and then the sky back here. So let's start with her skin tone here. I'm going to come down to split toning. No, not split toning, I'm sorry, color. And I'm just going to desaturate the orange a little and desaturate the red just a little. And that really evens things out. I like that a lot. And now I'm going to do something funny, which I normally don't do, but just in this particular situation, in this case, I'm going to make the blues come out a little bit in the water behind them and in the sky behind them. Just because it was such an overcast day doesn't mean we have to have dreary water too. So let's go ahead and let's fix that. I'm going to take these blues and I'm going to lighten up that saturation, make it a little more saturated. I'm going to bring down the luminance on that so it stands out just the littlest teeny bit. Okay, looks good to me. And then for my highlights, I'm going to bring those down just a little more. And then same thing with my lights. I'm going to add that pop. Yeah, that looks really good. Cool. And then I'm going to fix this crop really quick. Maybe just out a little more. Okay, cool. Yeah, that looks nice. I like it. Very nice before and after. So pretty. Love it. Last but not least, this image here. This is one of my most recent, most favorite images I've probably ever taken. It's just, I love when the sun comes through leaves like that, and they just look like they're having such a good time, paired with the fact that I was actually there taking that picture and they were having a good time. So let's go ahead and see what preset looks all right. Black and white, basic, film, luminous portrait. So we know already that film and luminous portrait are just kind of out of the question because they really just pump things way too much over the edge for me. So I'm going to go back and do basic. And I almost am tempted to just leave it like this. I'm just going to leave it, and I would be completely happy with this. But I'm going to make just 2 really minor adjustments here that are really just going to like make the cake for me personally. So I see a little bit of chromatic lens aberration up here in these leaves. So I'm going to help that out just a little bit by going into lens corrections and going into the manual section. And I'm just going to toggle this slider over until it looks all right to me. Yep, that looks good. Let's make sure that my lens is calibrated. Nope, I don't have a profile correction. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do Canon. Yep, and 50mm looks good. Okay, that didn't make much of a difference, but I always like to have it on just to have it on. And then my saturation, again, I said earlier that you won't find highly saturated images here, and I know this is a highly saturated image, but I'm going to take it down just a little by like -10. And maybe take that back like 2 clicks. Yeah, that looks good to me. If this is too yellowy for you, go down to your greens and desaturate them even more, okay? So you'll take these greens way, way down, and that helps out the image a lot. But for the most part, I think that the sun shining through it makes sense for this image to be really, really warm like this. So I'm happy with this. So let's go to the before and after. Looks good. Nice. I am happy with that. So far we have selected portraits, or we've selected portraits to use the basic preset, the film preset, and the luminous portrait preset. But we haven't selected a portrait to do the black and white with yet, and I did not select another portrait on purpose because I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to turn this portrait here into the black and white preset portrait. So let's go ahead and do Kinfolk black and white. And you know, I'm tempted to just leave it like this. This looks perfect to me. This is my ideal kind of black and white portrait. But just in case you want to take it over the edge just a little bit more, or you feel like it's lacking something, it's most likely lacking that punch. I think it already has enough contrast to be punchy, but I'm going to pull down the highlights a little more and up those lights. Do the same thing with these whites here. I'm going to take them down a little more. And then my highlights will stay about the same, like my little highlight panel. Shadows will come up. Yep, looks good. And I think, see lens correction, see if, yep, that's enabled. And I don't have to worry about anything there. I think that looks all right to me. Yeah, I think that looks really, really good. So yeah, let's do before and after. Before and after. So that looks good to me. I want to really quickly duplicate this so that we can go back over it again in our final walkthrough. So I'm actually going to do let me actually go back. I don't want to have to do it all over again, so let me go back. Cool. And then I'm just going to copy what I did here and create virtual copy. And then go ahead and apply that black and white and redo really quickly my highlights down, lights up a little bit for punch, leave highlights the same, bring that up a little, bring my whites up a little, and that's pretty much it. So let's go through our final walkthrough. Before and after. Before and after. Before and after. Before and after. Yes. Yes. And yes. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that you could be here. If you have never been here before, my name is Kaylee Trippett. I am a wedding and portrait photographer based out of Florida. I love serving couples, whether it be newly engaged couples or weddings. If you're getting married, I just love serving couples and helping them bring out their creative side. Thanks again for being here. If you want to be on the list to be the first to find out about the Kinfolk presets, or their name might be changed about that time, but if you want to be notified or be the first to know about the Kinfolk presets, just click on the link below and it will take you to a cute little page where you can enter in your email and you will be added straight to the list, so you will be the first to get your hands on Kinfolk presets when they are released. Thanks again and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.